Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the day 2 of APNG camp. So I hope everyone are excited today. We have a lot of good speakers in store for us today. Our theme, I would like to remind all of us that we have this great topic for today, because 4 of our invited experts who are speakers will be talking about emerging technologies. So our theme for the camp is adapting to the new normal through emerging technologies, and we have 4 great speakers. So just to run down the names of our speakers for this morning, we will have Dr. Benson Wu, followed by Dr. Bishesh Khanal, with Tomohiro Ishibashi, and then Police Lieutenant Colonel Angela Salaya. So we have different speakers from different economies, so this will be an exciting day for us. Okay, to kick off our day, let's proceed with the presentation of Dr. Benson Wu. So let me just briefly introduce Dr. Benson Wu. Dr. Benson Wu is an APNG alumni. He is also the co-founder of SciCraft, an AI company that automates cybersecurity defense for hundreds of enterprises in the Asia-Pacific region. So his topic will be attack and defense for the new normal, healthcare and educational institutions as example. So without further delay, please allow me to call Dr. Benson Wu.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure to be invited to attend this APNG camp. As I joined APNG camp almost 20 years ago, so I'm very happy to be here again and share with you my research in cybersecurity. Hold on a bit. Let me share my slides. So today, I will share the cyber attacks and also ways to do defense on the internet. I use a healthcare and educational institution example. I now run a company called SciCraft. We do a lot of AI and cybersecurity, mainly for enterprise customer in Asia Pacific. As I share with you, time flies. Almost 20 years ago, I first attended APNG camp in Korea, Japan, and also Taiwan. I appreciate these organizations for the sponsorship so that I can learn a lot when I was young. Especially special thanks to Tomi-san. I met him 20 years ago, and even nowadays we still have a lot of things to do together. I have a background in computer science during my graduate school. I love cybersecurity. I gave my research at these two very interesting security conference, DEF CON and Black Hat. I encourage you to look at their historical presentations. They share all the materials online. These are all very fantastic presentations that you can learn cybersecurity all at once and easily. Before I founded my startup, I work at a startup, US-based startup called Amorize for 5 years. And then I founded my startup for 3 years, and then it was acquired by Variant. Then I become the management team for Variant Taiwan for 4 years, and now I founded SideCraft again. So when I founded a company, I have good friends to found the company together. So Jeremy, PK, we co-founded a company. We now run a company for almost 5 years. We open office in Japan, in Singapore, and also in the US. A lot of exciting things we are doing at the moment, and then continue to devote our time to cybersecurity. So begin my presentation. Why healthcare and educational institutions are now the new targets during this pandemic time. Because in the past 2 years, we have a lot of interaction with these two verticals. So you almost now become very familiar to do COVID test. Every one of you probably already got vaccinated, either your first shot or second shot, or even the third one and the first one are coming. And also now, because you are now likely to stay at home, you didn't travel a lot, and a lot of these learning experience are becoming online. So all these new normal will become your daily life. And what if attackers are now starting to attack these new normal? So I want to share with you a lot of things. Because you are now stay at home, you cannot really go to that facility to prove whether this is valid or not. So a lot of digital things could be fake. I'm not saying that the photos I show here is fake or it's authentic, but you cannot verify. So it's a problem nowadays. Everything is digital, and it's very hard to tell whether this is real or fake. And hacker are real. They will steal the data, especially healthcare data, and then they sell at the dark web. So bad people sell data to another group of bad people, and then they take advantage of these stolen data. The screenshot I show here is one of the high market share clinics in the country. And then hackers are selling this data for a few hundred of US dollars. And these are all patient records. So I show you the database color names here. You see the client names, who they work for, the employee ID, and also a lot of their personal information, and then also their bank account. So all these are very private, very sensitive data, could be easily collected by hacker, and then they sell to another crime groups. So you will continue to have more damage to your digital life. And strictly speaking, healthcare institutions They are not cybersecurity experts. So it's relatively hard for them to protect well on these IT infra. And this is one of the headline for the event I just mentioned. So you see this headline mentioning that hackers are selling these health insurance data online, and then more than 400,000 people are affected. This is another case. This one from another country, also in Asia Pacific, and hackers are also selling these data online. All these very private patient data of a hospital. So you can see a lot of these cyber attacks are not just potential risk; they are happening, and they are the new reality at this new normal. So healthcare institutions are now becoming the high-value personal information targets, as well as the educational institutions. The reason is because these educational institutions, they are the recipients of a research grant. So they do very advanced research that is of high value. And also the think tank, they usually get a government grant to do national-wide projects, survey, studies. These are also high values to the opponent economy or countries. So they become the new targets as well. And then there are also a few other verticals that also are the high value targets, such as the insurance firms, because they have the medical insurance, and also the law firms, because they have all your legal related documents, such as like KYC, know your customers. So usually law firms have your passport, your ID card, all these scanned files. And then when you go travel, when you register at the hotel or travel agencies, you also provide lots of personal information to these enterprise. And then they are also the new targets as well. And then the last one is the human resource agencies. They have a lot of your resume. Many people now, when they apply jobs, they wrote a lot of their experience. And then these experience sometimes should supposedly be protected by non-compete and also non-disclosure agreement. However, due to some careless or because you want to convince your next employer that you have this capability, you will put a lot of information in your resume. So they become also high value, because some of the project or some of the work that you've done could be high value to the opponents as well. So now I will move on to two additional things I'd like to share with you. One is the attack side, and then the other one would be the defense side. So what are the techniques, and also how the attackers are attacking the victims. First of all, during this new normal, cyber attack is happening every day. And you all know that this tragedy happening recently. There's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine. And also cyber attack is is part of this war as well. And these are two group, APD29 and also Sandworm. They are state-sponsored campaigns. So governments are behind these two hacker group, APD29 and Sandworm. And during this cyber war against Ukraine, there are three types of cyber weapons launch. One is botnet. So a lot of computers are become like zombie, and then they are controlled by the state's hackers. And then also denial of service large volume of denial of service that would shut down your critical infrastructures. You cannot access your bank accounts, and also many new malware that would wipe your data, destroy all your data, so that it creates panic and also fear among the citizens of the targeted countries. And even if it's not at war, during the normal time, already the internet is very chaotic. Many virus on the internet nowadays. The total volume of all the historical virus already exceed 1 billion. And then every month, there are a dozen million of new malware. So this is why now everyone almost certain you have an antivirus installed on your computer. But also, it also implies antivirus is no longer enough. Because when you look at all these cybersecurity incidents, every enterprise, they all have antivirus. But cyber breach, cyber incidents still happening every day. So antivirus and the virus, the malware are again in a very crazy situation nowadays. So how did the attackers attack the victims? I want to share with you this very good framework called MITRE ATT&CK. This is the effort of the US federal government. They sponsor these projects so that a lot of talents, they put together these attack framework to explain what are the techniques that are being used by the attacker. You can see in different stage, and it goes from the left to the right. And then the attacker eventually they want to reach to the right so that they can make impact. They can steal your data. They can shut down your facilities. And more than 500 techniques are available in this framework. And attacker can also use a combination of these different techniques. In other words, it's almost endless different attack plan they can come up with to compromise potential targets. This is also why it's so difficult to defend a cyber attack. There are so many ways they can take advantage and try to compromise and bypass your defense mechanisms. And I want to also share this framework, although it's more than 500 techniques. Attacker, not necessarily they will use all the 500 techniques. They will use the one that they are more familiar with and also more capable of. And you will see one example. For example, these attacker, they might be more familiar with some 100 techniques. So you see the highlighted one are the unique techniques that will usually used by the attacker. Then different attacker, they have a different combination of techniques that they love to use. So when you do investigation, also do analysis and big data correlation, you will see different styles among different attackers. And in the attack framework, I want to give you one example, such as like reconnaissance. So during this very initial first stage, attacker try to understand, try to collect intelligence about the target. And two very important things attacker try to achieve at this very early stage. They want to know where is the weakest link. And they also want to know who is the weakest individual. So at the where is the weakest link, they want to look for vulnerable software and hardware. And who is the weakest individual, they want to identify who is the vulnerable staff and also the vulnerable supplier vendor. When looking at the vulnerable software or hardware, attacker would buy exploits. So this is the underground dark web market that people would pay money to buy exploits. And when they acquire these exploits, they have unstoppable cyber weapons that can access into the target environment. So for example, if they see that you are using a particular version of a software, then they will go to the dark web and then they would buy exploits for that particular version of software. Then it's almost unstoppable that they would enter through that software because now they have these exploits that they can take advantage with. And then speaking of vulnerable individuals, hacker would also buy credential belonging to a particular user. The screenshot I share here, it's hackers are selling credentials that can access a particular user's, for example, Instagram, Facebook, Google accounts, Dropbox accounts, and also the Microsoft Live accounts. All these are available to be purchased by the crime group. I listed some notorious crime group, such as like the Red Line, Vida, Raccoon, and Taurus. And shockingly, all these are Russia-related crime groups. And the number you see in the screenshot, such as like the Red Line, it's more than 1 million, 1.4 million. These represent the number of different computer users. So these are Red Line crime group alone, in the last 12 months, they already traded 1.4 different computer users' credentials. And then dig into the details, what are being collected at this compromised computer. You will see the malware is hiding as a Microsoft file somewhere. So on the left one, that's the malware, the file location. The malware is hiding inside the Microsoft directory. And then you see this victim already installed several security solutions, such as the Norton security solution, Windows Defender, and also Symantec endpoint protection. But even with all these three installed on that computer, the malware still survive. And then on the very right column, hackers are collecting all these personal information and then pack them into items that they sell at the dark web. In other words, no matter how you change the password of your important websites, all these are being collected on a regular basis by the malware and then sold online. So this really creates a very chaotic things to a person's digital life. Lastly, I want to share with you ways enterprises are doing defense nowadays to fight against this crime group. Number one, lots and lots of cybersecurity solution out there. The recent cyber war going on, and also the real war between Russia and Ukraine, you see the stocks are all falling, but only one category of stock reach sky high. That's the cybersecurity related stocks. So there are a lot of interesting solution out there continue to fight against these ever evolving cyber attacks. And Cycraft is so my company are very good at endpoint protection and also the security analytics. But I feel 1,000 plus vendors are too confusing. So I want to share with you to use these cyber defense metrics. This is a 5x5 metrics that help you brainstorm how you can lay out a good defense architecture. So on the left column, you have the type of different assets, and on the upper part, you have different type of security functions. All these blocks, so it's a total of 25 blocks. You need to have something to do good security control in that particular block. So this is a 5x5. So you have 25 areas that you need to have a good security defense. So 25 compared to the previous 1,000 plus, it will be more easier and more clear for you to design your security defense. And if you ask me what would be the most important thing in each stage, I would say at the identify stage, you should do good scanning of known vulnerabilities. So you should use vulnerability assessment, you should use source code review. And then at the protection stage, you should block all the known bad. And this is where next generation antivirus is doing a good job at this stage. Remember, I mentioned that nowadays there's more than 1 billion virus out there. But all these 1 billion virus, they have virus signatures already available to the antivirus vendors. So antivirus vendors will put these 1 billion malware signatures into their antivirus products. So the next time you see these 1 billion, you wouldn't be infected by the 1 billion malware. So antivirus, although it's outdated, but it's still very good at blocking the known bad 1 billion malware. The next one will be detecting suspicious behaviors. So instead of recognizing signatures, now it's also very important to look at the behaviors rather than look at the bad guys. So even I don't know who is the bad guy, but if someone is doing bad behaviors, they should be the bad guys. So this is of high value, and now these categories usually something like EDR, NDR, XDR. And then doing the response is to stop the attack. And then the buzzword would be the instant response or security orchestration response, SOAR, SOAR. And lastly is the recovery stage, so that the business can still continue under the attack. And I want to mention the importance of doing data backup. So NAS, it's very important that everyone should always back up your data, so that when you are being hit by, for example, like ransomware, you don't have to be panic. You can still roll back and then recover your data. And I also like to share with you this nonprofit organization called No More Ransom. They have a lot of good free decryptors for different ransomware malware family. Cycraft also contribute tools to this No More Ransom. A lot of good companies, good organizations, after they study the ransomware malware family and also their tools, and then they share these free decryptors to the public. And during this era of cyber defense, I want to share you three important things. Is this is a new challenge for data collection because there are so many big data out there. And also for human beings to do a good decision, we need to visualize, and then we need to see so that we can make a better decision. So visualization is also a new challenge nowadays. And lastly, because it's a human collaboration, you need to be able to explain. So report explanation is also a new challenge. So it's almost the ending of my presentation. I want to share with you that doing this new normal, because everyone is now learning online, I feel that to make learning more interesting, it's also important to bring innovations to the learning experience online. And one way is through gaming. So if you can combine something very dry, very tedious, but use gaming elements into this learning, then it will be very interesting, and more people wouldn't fear of the technical terms, and then they would learn very naturally, and also very entertaining to these very technical jargons. So one thing I did in the past is to convert the MITRE ATT&CK framework 500 plus very dry technique things into a board games. So you play the board games, and then you also learn these very dry 500 plus techniques. And then I also noticed another new normal is when you do the learning, it's not really to test the technical skills, because you can always test the technical skills through exams, test, quiz. But if you can make a learning that you force that they cannot touch the keyboard, they can only touch like the mouse, they can only touch the controller, then people wouldn't fear that, oh, if I want to learn cybersecurity, I need to know how to do coding, I need to know how to do programming. Actually, it's not necessarily true. If you can remove these barriers, and then make people think of the strategy rather than the actual coding, then it can also be a lot of fun, and more people would be interested to learn these very dry but also important topics. Yeah, so this is my share for today. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Benson, Dr. Wu. And it was a really fascinating talk, and then very informative too. So we have several questions in chat window. Also a message from our Asia Pacific Next Generation mentor, our Grandpa Tomi-san. And I think I can combine two comments from Grandpa Tomi and our APNG webinar and seminar chair, Dr. Gura. So Dr. Gura also asked a question: what role should ISP play, and to what extent should they go to protect their customers? And also Dr. Guda made comments that saying attack techniques and tutorials publicly available on YouTube. We don't have to be a computer science expert to launch cyber attack nowadays. And then also Grandpa Tommy comments, high value targets are organizations who handle the customer informations. So based on your expert experiences, how well are those organizations ready to protect, secure their system and then customer information? Also, in your opinion, how well we and the users are aware of those attacks and then ready to protect ourselves?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of questions. And I want to summarize that because cybersecurity is very fast evolving and also very complicated, it requires a lot of time of study. You must find a local security partner so that you can work together with the local people. It's not, cybersecurity is never just buying products. You need local experts when things happen. So you can, of course, do survey that which product are international wide, very good, capable, but you still need to find local security partners that you can trust so that you can collaborate together. And another important thing of finding local partner is they can be accountable when something is wrong. So if you buy a foreign products and then without any local partners, then nobody is liable when things went wrong. So at least you have a local security partner. They can help you share these concern and also anxieties. So finding the security partner, finding the security product, and then look at your security process, talk to your boss. All these are equally important. So when you see the 5x5 cyber defense metrics, it's not only about technology. It also includes people and also includes process. And then you can find the right product in these 5x5 metrics. And speaking of the ISP, I feel that ISP is like the bringing connectivities to the customers. So it's important to assure a certain level of clean pipe. Not everything can be done by ISP, but if something could be done and should be done at ISP level, then they should be done at ISP level. So an analogy would be like you have a tap water at home, and the government should make sure that the water that delivered to your house should be clean enough, but not necessary that they are bacteria free or they are absolutely so clean that you can drink without boil the water. But they must make sure every different organization along this food chain, they did a certain job and also they did a certain degree of controls so that they share all these efforts and responsibilities. Yeah, so I feel that everything you should look at the architecture, look at the overall situation, rather than just one single point and then you want to solve all the problems. Every strategic position, they are in the best position to solve a certain problem, and then you must find what's that certain problem that is very good at solving at these strategic positions.
Thanks so much, Benson. And Dr. Wu will stay with us as our mentor. So we already have more questions in chat windows, and then Dr. Wu will answer your questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask those questions through chat windows. Maggie, go ahead.
Thank you.
Don't wait. We prepared something. Maggie, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Benson Wu. Before you leave, please stay because we would like to appreciate your time with us.
I will stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would like to present you a certificate, a virtual certificate of appreciation. So APNG would like to present this certification to our invited speaker, Dr. Benson Wu, in grateful recognition for sharing his expertise and experience in attack and defense for the new normal, healthcare, and educational institutions as examples to the next generation of Asia Pacific Internet leaders. Presented this 26th day of February 2022 on the second day of 15th Asia Pacific Generation Camp. This is presented by myself, Maggie Antonio, as APNG 15th Camp Chair, Sun Yang Yang, our APNG chair, and Tommy Matsumoto, our APNG mentor. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Wu, for your time with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we need more positive energy like this platform, and then a lot of positive thinking people work together. Thank you.
Yes, I hope you can answer a lot of questions that are posted on our chat box while you listen to our next speakers as
Yeah.
well. Thank you, sir.
Everyone, please make a full use of Dr. staying with us as our mentor, okay? Our next speaker is Dr. Bishesh Khanal. He's a co-founder and director at NAMI, a profit not distributing research institute in Nepal. After completing his PhD from INLIA, Sofia Antipolis, France, and postdoctoral research at King's College London and Imperial College London, UK, he moved back to Nepal due to his strong interest in strengthening the scientific research and innovation capabilities of Nepal. His key areas of interest include visual perception, learning in low resource language, machine learning, and AI, with a special interest in applying them to global health problems. He believes that the advancement in computational science and AI has provided a unique opportunity for resource-constrained countries to explore exciting avenues of research using some computers and quality manpower, effectively democratizing innovation is medicine. He will give a talk titled Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare, Opportunities and Challenges for Low Resource Countries. Please welcome Dr. Khanal.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you
Okay,
well too.
so thank you. I'll just share this screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'll start. So thank you very much for the nice introduction. And I would also like to thank the whole team for giving me this opportunity to talk. And special thanks to Maggie for coordinating with me, and Ashik, who first reached out to me. The title I've slightly changed because my focus will be on the imaging data, medical imaging informatics, still with AI in healthcare. So I've added the medical imaging informatics in the title to highlight the core focus of my talk today. So I will most briefly introduce AI, or artificial intelligence, and medical imaging informatics, and then go into where and how AI can help, especially in the low resource settings, and will conclude with some implementation challenges. So first, when we think of AI, I mean, this is currently a buzzword, and people use it a lot, artificial intelligence. But if we look at the term itself, artificial intelligence, artificial, I mean, it's added as against natural intelligence, and intelligence itself we commonly attribute it to human beings. So it's the term itself comes to distinguish it from the human intelligence. And if we look into human intelligence, or the way people understand, I mean, the exact definition can vary depending on people. But what we see, if we see the human brain, we have these low-level brain functions such as touch, smell, or hearing, or balance, which are not just specific to human beings, but also to many animals. Even some part of the vision, like seeing things, this is also in mid-level or higher level brain functions that are available in certain certain animals. Then we go into language, thinking. So these are attributes or concepts that we associate with only humans, and somehow linked more to closer to intelligence, right? And imagination and consciousness, well, it's hard to define consciousness. People have different views on this, but still this is a concept that is more or less associated with imagination, thinking, language, with the human intelligence. And a lot of people sometimes think that artificial intelligence is something that we try to emulate, try to copy, or be able to do the same as human brains. But these days, the way the artificial term, this term is used, it's slightly different than that. And people have started to distinguish these AI with the idea of emulating the whole human brain, by specifying this idea of emulating whole brain as the artificial general intelligence. So it's like having a human, something like a human being who can think, who can do many different tasks. Uh, all right, so that's general intelligence, but we are not talking about this in general when we talk about AI and its applications, and in this talk as well. So artificial intelligence, so I'll briefly go through. So what does it mean then? So here is one example where I opened Google Translate, and then I started typing in a language like English. It automatically detected the language, and then I asked it to translate it to Filipino, right? So these are, so translation or understanding language to certain, up to a context. So these are some and intelligence attributed to human beings. So if we look at another example, here there's detecting cars. So there's automatic detection of vehicles, but then it is also doing something else that is usually difficult for human beings, like estimating the distance from the car itself. We could also think of Facebook or many other different online systems where there are specific ads, targeted ads as person-specific ads, right? Which looks into a lot of data and then tries to find best ads, most suitable ads for that particular person. So this is also not that easy for human beings to do, but it's still an example of AI. So what I try to show here, it's not just about being able to do exactly what humans can do, but also some other tasks, but those tasks which we usually associate with intelligence in some sense. There's another example where we see fetal ultrasound. So this is the ultrasound image being done, carried out for a pregnant woman with a fetus or baby inside. And the AI system here is automatically detecting different parts of the fetus. Right, so this is yet another example. So if we try to summarize or try to define loosely AI in some sense from these examples, I would like to say that it's an ability of man-made agents, because it's artificial, and then so these man-made agents, but then it does task that is traditionally attributed to intelligence of some level, but an AI does not. So for example, the translation system here is not able to do anything, any other tasks that's below here, but as in here, right? So it's still a specific task, but related to intelligence in some sense. And so this is the AI. I mean, most of the way the term is used these days across the world, this is what AI means loosely. And now let's briefly look into medical imaging informatics. And so medical imaging informatics, if we go back to thousands of years, uh, I mean, human beings have been trying to look inside the human body for so long. And this is one example when we look into, I mean, if you search in Wikipedia for history of anatomy, this is one picture from Nepal that you see during the Vedic period. I mean, the way they describe different internal organs of the human being, but this is common across many other different ancient civilizations where people have been trying to look into the human body. But most of these approaches are invasive. That means you have to cut the skin or get inside the body by cutting out and then seeing things, right? But there was this landmark work for which the scientist won I mean, in fact, it's the very first Nobel Prize in physics for this X-ray. And this X-ray, once it was invented, you could see, so this is the first picture of a human being where I think, yes, you can see the ring and the human hand inside the bones, you can see without cutting anything, right? So, and after this, there has been many different kinds of imaging, what we call as modalities, or kinds of imaging devices. You must have heard at least some of them, like MRI, ultrasound, or CT scan, and there are many more, many different these days. And what all these images or devices try to do is try to look inside the human body for both structure, that the structure means the anatomy or the shape, size, these kind of things, and function as well, depending on the kind of images. And so from these very, very different imaging devices, you can acquire very different kind of information from within our body. And the medical imaging informatics, what it tries to do is to extract some clinically pertinent information, that is useful information, try to extract, process, and then infer some useful information for, it could be for diagnosis, so identifying what disease one had, or prognosis, how the person or the patient improves, what would be its trajectory. Or so if someone needs to do a surgery, surgeons can plan from based on the images they see. And also people do lots of research using images to understand better diseases. So this is medical imaging informatics. And what we have seen in the last few years is there's a very big majority of these medical imaging research focus on AI based approach, because they have shown a lot of potential and promise. And so now what I will do is try to go into some examples. First, briefly define kind of low resource settings with an example of Nepal, and then see some examples works where how AI can help. So this is an example of Nepal's healthcare system, where what we have is on the top, on the left, towards the left, you can see the central hospitals. So there in the major urban centers, major cities, there are big hospitals, but there are very few of them. And as you go down, there are a few more spread out regional, zonal hospitals or district hospitals, which are smaller with less expertise. And as you go down, there's a very large number of primary health centers and health posts in many, many different areas of Nepal, in the rural areas. And where if you look on the right side, the amount of people, the number of people who actually get served in these is quite large. But then if you look in the services, there's not much advanced services available here, because as you go down in these areas, you don't have a lot of expert, for example, expert radiologists or disease specific expert medical experts. So that means it is limited. And the challenge is for like countries like Nepal, and this is common in many different low middle income countries, and even sometimes in developed countries. As you go towards rural areas or people, it's hard to have experts live there and support or provide health services continuously. And so how does AI, or how can AI help? So this is the question. So one is on these primary health centers, like on these rural areas where there is lack of expertise, what we already have. So the existing scenario on the primary health centers is you have easy access to large majority of people, because a lot of people are spread around. And since there are so many of these primary health centers, so effectively a large population gets served by these centers. And there are imaging devices like x-rays, ultrasound, smartphone cameras these days which are available. But expensive CT scans, MRI scanners, PET scanners, those are not available. But then these x-rays, ultrasound, they are already quite useful and can do a lot of work. You have these community health nurses or female health community health workers, or field medical officers or junior medical officers. So these kind of people are available, but we don't have a specialist doctors, radiologists. And some, for example, for ultrasound, you might have portable handheld ultrasound, but you don't have the person to actually use the ultrasound. So this means it limits the service delivery. And the other side, on the other side, if you look on the central or big hospitals, so they provide wide range of services. They have these advanced scanners and advanced machines, specialist doctors. But since these are in small numbers, so you have very small number of hospitals, but then you have pretty much the whole country needs to come to these places to get these advanced services. So it is usually mostly overburdened, especially government hospitals. And it means it's slow service, and the doctors need to do a lot of tasks in a very short period of time, which means there's and so the question now is what can or what should AI do? So if you look at the primary health centers or community health centers, it is about assisting the existing workforce we already have, because to improve the workforce or to send experts, high-end experts to those places can be socio-economically difficult. But then the technology, if we can develop these technologies, it can assist these people, then it's much more scalable and sustainable to improve the quality of existing services, and more importantly, broaden the scope of the healthcare professionals. So the nurses, whatever they are able to do now, if we can broaden that to a more things for them to be able to do by assisting with the help of AI, then that's one area where AI can help in resource constrained settings. The other is in these central or big hospitals, assess all the health professionals by improving the speed and the quality and the robustness. So these are the two major, but I will be focusing on the first half, where showing some examples of the work we've been doing. So here's one example where, so the idea here is a diarrhea, which is still, there are a lot of, every year, especially during monsoon season, in many areas of Nepal, there's still a lot of children dying because of diarrhea. And there's no easy tests available in most of these parts. And so the idea is to be able to easily, with just smartphones, so attaching a small microscope or building a smartphone microscope, and be able to detect parasites. So here in this particular work, we focused on two kinds of parasites. One is Cryptosporidium and Giardia. So these are most common parasites we see, and be able to test these very quickly, rapidly, even with non-experts. So to able to identify these parasites automatically, it could be under water samples, it could be on vegetable samples, or human stool samples. And this particular example we're showing with water and vegetable. And so if we can build this kind of, let's say on mobile phone, and doing rapid tests, it helps to identify these parasites early on, and perhaps support in the, for example, during the water cleaning, or to decide whether to use these or not, right? So taking preventive measures. So this is again the AI part. What it is doing is, even though we have smartphone microscopes that is easy to send to all parts of the, everywhere, but without experts, it's still not that usable. But then with AI, you can assist these non-experts, normal people who are already living there or working there, to use that. The another example here is, what we were doing is the pesticide problem in vegetables. So using excessive pesticide is a big problem in Nepal, and the government struggles to regularly test these vegetables. And one of the reasons is because usually the standard devices are quite expensive. And then they are not that portable. So the idea here was, we were developing a paper-based device, like the small filter paper. You can buy off the shelf, and a solution that was designed as part of the research. And once you use that paper device on the vegetables or fruit solutions, with the smartphone, the colors changes to different grades, and you have a machine learning to predict these concentration. And this can be very low cost, again using just smartphone, and this can enable rapid and massive mass testing, which will enable governments or other even consumer community groups to actually use this to easily check the amount of the check whether the pesticide, the vegetables are edible or non-edible. And so another example, this is just in a Nepali news about scoliosis, which is a disease where you have the spine in the X-ray, which is bent or curved in different angles, and it is important to know or calculate the angle by which it is bent to decide what kind of treatment is, and when and how to treat. For the surgeons, it's important to calculate the angles, right? And especially in rural areas, if you need an expert to actually calculate properly, but if you have an AI that can assist automatically detecting these, so if basic kind of treatment, if the patient doesn't need advanced treatment, you can quickly decide on their on time in remote areas. I'll give another example here that we were working on, and the ultrasound, because ultrasound are very interesting, because these days you have handheld ultrasound, which means just like a smartphone sized images, you with sizes you can get ultrasound, but it has limited field of view, and it depends on the person who is using the ultrasound. So if you are not an expert, then it's not easy to acquire right kind of images, so you cannot really use this ultrasound, and we are really limiting the potential of its being low cost nature and portable nature because of lack of experts. And the AI comes into play. So here's another example where we show that you can actually use these machine learning or artificial intelligence algorithms to identify different parts of the fetal ultrasound in this case. So fetal region, so here abdomen or cardiac regions, heart, limbs of the fetus, right, placenta of the mother, spine. So different areas are automatically identified, and you can also identify standard views, because the standard views of, for example, here in the brain, these are important to detect abnormalities, whether the fetus has abnormality or not, and whether it's growing normally or not. So these are quite important. And but then to be able to go to the right plane, so in the because this is a one plane or one slice of brain, one very specific region of brain that you need to go. And if you are not an expert, it's not easy to go there. And here, this is another example where we're trying to automatically identify the right plane in a large volume, so which will enable people with less expertise to actually acquire those images and navigate around. Right. And here I give another example where we don't need to go to the details in the numbers, but the bigger picture, the idea here is during the COVID times, there were lots of research papers or lots of papers being published about detecting this COVID-19 using X-ray images or CT scans. But then, so now I'm going towards the challenges. And what we show here is these publicly available data sets. This largely comes from certain geographic regions, especially the global north. And many of these studies that report the accuracies are actually overestimating the performance, because there is biases involved in the data set, and there's also this generalization problem of machine learning and AI, which makes it and we showed that many of the papers reporting the results are actually overestimated. And so now if I transition towards the implementation challenge, including those data set bias, try to summarize briefly. So one, I mean, what we have experienced in Nepal as an example is already the lack of digitization. So which means even if when we envision a research project or identify a research problem and then try to work on it, there is already this infrastructure problem. Being able to set up systems is quite difficult. The other part is, even if we develop a system and then to continuously provide these services to remote areas or to different areas, for example, by building web-based services, it's difficult if you don't have digitization and this infrastructure, digital infrastructure. The other is the lack of expertise. Usually countries like Nepal, there are very, very few researchers or innovators in this domain. And what that means is many medical problems that actually are real problems in this part of the world goes unidentified, and most of the problems comes from, let's say, the global north, and with people over there think that this might be an important problem. But usually there's a big contextual gap, and the systems or solutions designed in a very different setting, especially in the healthcare domain, just trying to bring it here might not work. The other, obviously, the research and innovation in these resource constrained settings, the lack of funding is indeed an obvious or the important problem. But then there are also issues with, especially with AI, one needs to be careful about regulations and identifying the right approach, because there's still issues or challenges regarding the privacy and potential exploitation, especially on how the industries and these hospitals work on, especially in rural resource countries where people are not aware at all of the potential or the challenges of AI. Then people just taking the data and improving their model, but then instead of taking them as partners making them pay, even taking the data. So this kind of issues we have seen here, where the hospitals or the clinical doctors are not even aware that they are actually supporting the big companies, but the companies are actually making them pay. So the other way around, right? And the another challenge is the usually what we call as winner takes all dynamics in economic dynamics, AI. What that means is when there are bigger companies with bigger data already have a lot of front foot on building new AI models, especially because these models are usually AI data hungry. And for the new startups, smaller startups, building new products or competing with them is already quite challenging. So how do we look into this, especially if we want to nurture and empower local entrepreneurs? This is also, I think, something that one has to think about. So I would like to conclude here and open for questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Khanal, for fascinating, very informative talk. Please ask your questions in chat windows. I myself have a question, Dr. Khanal. So you discussed the like a health system mediated by AI and powered by AI. So these new technologies, how will these new technologies change the role of doctors in
So
future?
change the role of doctors. Okay, I see.
Yeah, so we
Yes,
are from now
yes,
on
I
like
understand.
collaborating.
Yeah, that's an important question. Thank you. Yeah. So I think what it so it I mean it complements the doctors. I think that's what we already see in some scenarios, is because when we look at the human health and the diseases or problems, there are so many different steps and so many different information that needs to be collected or analyzed, and then when making decisions. So what AI does is it aids in the decision making process for the clinicians by giving them much richer information and much more accurate information. So so it allows them to make better decisions by having better interaction with patients, or taking into account the information which they might have missed out if these systems were not there. So it's more of a complementary role. And also sometimes doctors or the radiologists have to do some repeated tasks, which are for them quite let's say tedious. It's still doable for them, but tedious and repeating tasks. The machines can do that for them quickly and give better sense of a much richer information. For example, if someone is looking at, let's say, the breast cancer, and in breast cancer, the tumors, the radiologist can see that. But if they want to quantify it, so what we call as quantitative medicine, visually, when you look at it, you can, because the nature of the tumors, the size, shape can have different kind of implications on the clinical treatment, right? And for them to, they can make a visual inspection by looking at the images, but with these tools you can actually quantify size, shape, texture, and looking at the huge data, perhaps it can give better information. So what that means is the oncologists can make better decisions. So this is yet another example, right?
Yeah, we have 2 more questions, but because of the time limits, would you please answer them in chat windows?
Yeah.
Thanks so
in
much.
the chat windows. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Maggie, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much again, Dr. Bishesh Khanal, for that wonderful talk, for sharing the best practices that you're doing now in Nepal. Okay, so before you leave and before you answer all those questions on our chat box, we would like to present to you a certificate of appreciation. This is a virtual one. So the certificate of appreciation is hereby presented to our invited speaker, Dr. Bishesh Khanal, in grateful recognition for sharing his expertise and experience in artificial intelligence and medical imaging informatics in healthcare, opportunities and challenges for low-resource countries, to their next generation of Asia-Pacific Internet leaders. Presented this 26th of February 2022 on the second day of the 15th Asia-Pacific Generation Camp. presented by myself, Maggie Antonio, APNG 15th Camp Chair, Sun Yang Yang, our APNG Chair, and of course, Grandpa Tommy Matsumoto, our APNG Mentor. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Khanal, for your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And our next speaker is from our hosting economy, Philippines. Our next speaker is Police Lieutenant Colonel Maria Angela Mirabel Salaya. She's a governance strategist, trainer, and an IT officer of the Information Technology and Management System Service for the Philippine National Police. She has been serving the country as a police chief officer for more than 10 years now and has contributed her skills and expertise as assistant division chief and a member of the audit team of the PNP Center for Police Strategy Management when she pursued her doctorate on development studies and management for further leadership equipping. She will give a talk titled Thriving in the New Normal Through Digital Transformation, the Philippine National Police Experience. Please welcome Police Lieutenant Colonel Salaya.
A pleasant afternoon to all of you here in the virtual world. And I hope that you are now enjoying your lunch. And I also hope that you'll be enjoying listening to my presentation. So please sit back, relax, and listen to our Philippine National Police digital transformation journey. So let me just share my screen first. Okay. Shown in the screen is a sequence of my presentation. So I'll be discussing to you the PNP organizational background, our journey in digital transformation, and the PNP's best practices. The Philippine National Police is the armed national police in the Philippines, and it has approximately 220,000 personnel, of which the agency is administered and controlled by the National Police Commission and is a bureau of the Department of Interior and Local Government. So the PNP was formed in January 29, 1991, pursuant to Republic Act 6975 and further amended by Republic Act 8551. The national headquarters of the PNP is located at Camp Crame, Quezon City, and is home to 4 personal staff offices, 16 directorial staff offices, 29 administrative and operational support units, while the 17 police regional offices are located in various regions of the country. We have here the PNP Charter Statement, which highlights the PNP's lofty and novel vision of becoming a highly capable, effective, and credible police service, which aims to achieve, of course, not beyond 2030. So provided in here in the left is the PNP's mission to enforce the law, prevent and control crimes, maintain peace and order, and ensure public safety and internal security with the active support of the community. And of course, we cannot overemphasize the importance of a strong partnership with the communities in the attainment of the vision and, of course, our mission. So the philosophy of the PNP states that we shall provide services with honor and justice. And of course, our PNP vision, mission, and philosophy is anchored on the development of our transformation roadmap. The PNP is also aligned with the charter statement of the government in Ambition Natin 2040. It is the Philippines roadmap, which represents the collective long-term vision and aspiration of the Filipino for themselves and for the country in the next 25 years. The charter statement defines how the PNP effectively and efficiently deliver its objectives under the process excellence, which is crime prevention, crime solution, and public safety and community awareness through human rights-based and community-oriented policing. Prior to pandemic, the PNP performs vigorously its integrated core operational processes of investigation, operations, intelligence, and police community relations. And also in the administrative side, the PNP command activities, the daily meetings and conferences, trainings, and the typical day-to-day operations within the office and in the field. But just as timely as the Global Risk Report says in 2019, the future has never been felt so uncertain. So we indeed embark in a journey where no one has ever imagined that will happen in our lifetime. And that is our disrupted future. As I have said earlier, the PNP is prepared for the following big shocks, as shown in the screen: the fourth industrial technological revolution, geopolitical shift caused by the emergence of China, well, of course, and India and all others as a rising world power, and of course, the demographic shock due to the aging population and the climate change. And the last is, of course, the latest is the COVID-19 pandemic. So we all know that the PNP is prepared for the following big shocks. That's why we have our strategic plan. But then the COVID pandemic strikes, and that is not specifically identified in our roadmap. As it may say, the PNP needs to act swiftly with precision and efficiency. And as Charles Darwin says, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one that is more responsive to change. And true to its mandate, the PNP have to protect the community, but without risking, of course, its own people. Hence, the PNP has to go back to the drawing board, prepared its plan while combating the pandemic as frontliners, risking their lives both to the unseen and unseen enemies. The plan is not just to reactively approach for the current situation, but incorporating what needs to be adjusted and enhanced, including the current policies, the work setup, the equipage, and even the police operations towards the new ways of working in what we call now the new normal situation. During the height of the pandemic, the PNP implemented 50% skeleton workforce setup. But of course, unable to continue its daily operations, shifting to the new normal has to be done. And therefore, various challenges have been encountered in its core functions, mostly affecting communications, submissions of reports, trainings, recruitment and selection, among others. The full utilization of ICT has to be done quickly. With the help of the Directorate for Information and Communications Technology Management and its functional unit, the Information Technology and Management Service and Communications and Electronics Service, the PNP was able to respond quickly to the challenges of fully incorporating ICT in the normal setup. And while the PNP performs its mandate, it also has its own sacrifices. How then can the PNP monitor its 220,000 people without the use of ICT? How can the PNP serve and protect the community if it cannot even protect its own personnel? So, to be able for us to protect those who serve and protect, we need to monitor them daily. ITMS, or Information Technology Management Service, developed the PNP CODA, or the PNP COVID data. Each personnel has its own account where its medical assessments are recorded daily. It also has its QR code features, which we use for our swabbing references. And you can also see my record here of my RT-PCR. And of course, the red one here is the time that I was found to be positive for COVID, and that was last year, April 15, 2021. And of course, it also shows my vaccination records, which is the latest is December 31, 2021, my booster shot of AstraZeneca. Each personnel has to log in for our daily assessment, both medical and mental, which is being monitored by our station health unit. And you can also see my daily assessment, of which our station health unit monitors daily, where a notification will be alerted once that they see that there is some red marks here. So as you can see, I have symptoms from January 18 to January 21, just of this year. And also here, you can see my latest swab, which is February 22, 2022, just 4 days ago. And we also have our daily dashboard, which is prepared for monitoring of the head of each units and offices. Also, it is our primordial concern that community safety awareness has always been there, whether in manual type or in our virtual world. And here we can see our community safety awareness tips, and of course our social media account, of which you can put your complaints. But also for us to be able to of course, to be with the community, since going to the police station is still the community's concern, the PNP has implemented ways on how to get their complaints through online complaint desks and hotlines. We have here the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group e-complaint desk, especially for those who are being victimized by scams and all other e-commerce cyber crimes. And also we have here our Isongbong, of which this is the short messages systems hotline for the complaint and referral monitoring information system. We also have our implementation of the next generation investigation systems, which has been established for quite some time, and it has been reinforced to accommodate the bulk of online processing. So shown on the screen are our electronic subpoena, our Bantay Krimen or Crime Watch, our electronic blotter, our case information management system, and of course our electronic warrant and our electronic rogue gallery. And to support the paperless submission of our police operation, the PNP Command Center has been established to monitor the daily activities of the PNP in the field. And with the help of our body-worn camera, we can always monitor 24/7 all those happenings on the ground. For our recruitment and selection, the PNP usually recruits more than 10,000 applicants annually. Hence, to avoid the influx of applicants, the PNP implemented the online submission of application and the use of the QR code system, which was utilized in the entire application process for a faceless and nameless recruitment system to ensure that only the best candidates can enter the PNP. And for our training concerns, the virtual classes are on hand. And with the recent implementation of the PNP Open Academy, the realization of the knowledge management was achieved. For our convergence of our strategy partners, that is our members of the advisory group, the summits and boot camps are just some of the activities being conducted. Of course, to share the good news on the gains of the PNP Patrol Plan 2030 to the stakeholders and our community partners. So from 2015 up to 2019, the advisory group summits were held in different areas of the country. But in consideration with the current pandemic situation, The 6th and the 7th National Advisory Group Summit were held in mixed platform, where majority of the attendees attended virtually. So from the typical 300 to 400 attendees, it grew into more than 1,000 participants. And with the onset of the COVID pandemic situation, of course, the eventual changes of administrative and operation process within the PNP and the gathering of the ideas hopes to boost the PNP's digital transformation as it introduces change and innovations using ICT. So the first hackathon was done physically at the Multipurpose Center here in Camp Crame, and here in our Information Technology Management Office. But of course, due to the pandemic, the ITMS decided to conduct it virtually, and of course, which was found favorable since there are many students and IT enthusiasts that came from far-flung areas that were able to join the contest. So we used the power of the social media to bring the hackathon event to the common public so that they can also witness the live pitching and the demonstration of the system and learn from it as well. And with the onset of the COVID pandemic, the PNP initiated the conduct of the lecture series in the virtual world via Zoom platform and through our Facebook Live. So from the typical few physical attendees, oftentimes only numbering close to the average of 100 participants, the virtual lecture series participants are now averaging close to 900, and most of the time it reaches our maximum number of participants allowed in our Zoom platform. And of course, for those that cannot be accommodated, the technical team sets up FB Live so that they can still watch the event even without the Zoom platform. As it may say, the technology has been there. This is the realization. We just don't appreciate it that much. We just don't fully utilize the power of technology that is already within our hands, even before the pandemic time. So what then is the PNP's best practices? I would say that we cannot do it alone. The PNP does not have the monopoly of knowledge to bring these ICT best practices on hand. Of course, we have our number one best practice is our shared governance, our shared commitment, and our shared responsibility. So for our shared governance, we have established the Digital Governance Transformation Committee, which I hope that we still have ample time and I can share it to you via ABP. And we have here our shared commitment through our smart policing program, and of course, our friendly advisory group, the Information Technology Management Service and the Communications and Electronic Service has its own advisory group members, which are a group of volunteers selected based on their integrity, probity, and technical expertise. So they are the one helping the PNP in monitoring our plans and programs. And of course, in doing our projects on our shared responsibility, as I have said, it is not just the work of IT people alone. We need our counterpart to build up our solutions. And of course, the users, the administration support, the unit heads, the directorates must be regularly informed with our projects. So we continuously report to them through our stakeholders meeting. And of course, aside from the project management team, we have our counterpart stakeholders project management team, so that whatever issues and concerns, we have this focal person to be with us, to meet with us, and to discover solutions that will be necessary for the completion of our project. So why did the PNP able to counter the ICT issues and challenges? It is because the PNP has prepared it long ago through our PNP Patrol Plan 2030 roadmap. and of course with the alignment of the different charters of the DICTM, the ITMS, and the communications and electronic service. And with the onset of pandemic, very few adjustments has been done, and it is mostly on the strategic initiatives or the plans, programs, and projects. And of course, shown here in our screen is our performance indicators. So with the regular strategy review that we have, our continuous monthly operations review, we have this set of performance indicators which we have our baseline in the year 2010. And every year we have this what we call strategy refresh in such a way that we monitor the progress of our completion of our objectives or the attainment of our objectives, which is under the learning and growth perspective of our roadmap, which is developing a highly responsive and highly professional police organization. So as shown here is our PNP balance scorecard with our performance indicators or the key ICT usages. And of course, here is our measures on the percentage of ICT utilization, the percentage of information technology compliant PNP offices units or the standard ICT compliance, and the percentage of the communications technology compliant PNP units and offices, of which the Directorate for Information and Communications Technology Management is the office primarily responsible for implementing. So here on the right side is our strategic initiatives or our plans, programs on activities, which is anchored on our information systems strategic plans, which is constantly being renewed to be attuned with the trends of the times. We have here our communication systems strategic plan or our CSSP, and of course the different uh, projects which I hope that I can share to you via ABP later on. And of course, our smart policing portfolio. So as you can see here, the mandate, the mission, and vision of the PNP, this is our plan from 2020 up to 2025, which was designed in the year 2017. So this smart policing program actually helped us during the pandemic because almost all of the budgets has been prepared prior to its procurement as well as prior to the COVID pandemic time, in which we really or badly need our equipage and our ICT equipment. So shown here are our plans of which we're going to do later on from 2022 up to 2025. We have here our basic core functions on the police operations, police intelligence, police investigation, police community relations, of course, the general administration support, and of course, our support to operations. Also here are our hard and soft policies on our infrastructure and our structure. On infrastructure side, we have to rebuild our communications network, our computer network, and the establishment of our IT center. And of course, it is not only the equipment alone, but of course, the people needs to be prepared. The competencies, all the SOPs, the guidelines, the systems and the processes, and of course, our main policies. And here, as shown on the screen, is the establishment of our intelligence data analytics centers up to our 2025 and the establishment of the different regional command centers and of course the different implementations of our systems. And of course, I hope that I still have time, and let me just share to you this ABP which the CTM has prepared. So let me just share the sound to you.
Looking into the growing role of information and communications technology, or the ICT in law enforcement, the Philippine National Police saw the imperativeness of improving its operational efficiency by integrating technological advancements into its programs. With the desire to introduce and execute innovation in policing, the PNP activated the Directorate for Information and Communication Technology Management, or DICTM. Under its umbrella are Communications and Electronic Service, or CES, and the Information and Technology Management Service, or ITMS. In the past 12 years, the DICTM has been relentless in seeking technological innovation to upgrade the services of the PNP and has reached its point of momentum when the ICT Master Plan was approved. The ICT Master Plan was created to roadmap the digital transformation of the PNP by integrating and harmonizing all its ICT efforts, which include responding to the impact of technology on policing strategy and streamlining business processes and integration of information systems of the PNP in order to deliver an effective and quality police services to stakeholders. Now, the DICTM is beyond prepared to take advantage of the momentum with the leadership of Police Major General Roderick C. Armamento. At present, the largest proportion of all efforts are directed into propelling the digital transformation roadmap towards the realization of secured, mobile, artificial, intelligence-driven, real-time technology, or smart policing in the PNP. Besides the DICTM's technical and operational capabilities, Police Major General Armamento firmly believes that having a competent workforce is also a vital component of success.
The ongoing digitalization has been delivering its potential to transform our processes and systems. As head of the PNP ICT family and as member of the Committee on Anti-Red Tape, improving the agency's frontline services will be the utmost priority of the Philippine National Police. The DICTM will respond to it by introducing innovations towards bringing redefined and streamlined programs and creating a more efficient police force to institutionalize transparency and adhere with the service standards articulated in the Citizens' of the Philippine National Police. We will continue what the DICTM have started by ensuring the success of the Smart Policing Program, as well as by working with renewed vigor that is anchored on the 3Ds of no less than the Chief of the Philippine National Police, Police General Leonardo B. Carlos, and that is to show discipline, practice decorum, and distinctively contribute towards the betterment of the PNP organizations. The men and women of the DICTM, including myself, will maximize the use of ICT that will aid our organization in upholding discipline in complying with our mandate. Decorum should not be the bare minimum for us, and we will perform distinctively to become the bridge to the goals of the entire Philippine National Police.
Geared towards boosting the PNP's digital transformation, Smart Policing has already attained significant milestones, including the 15 projects that are being monitored by the Digital Transformation Governance Committee, or DTGC, that act as a decision-making body for the PNP on its ICT projects. The projects that were initially launched by the DICTM are fully functional for the goal of enhancing communications within the PNP and being utilized by all personnel in their day-to-day operation. First is the PNP Email System or PES that was created in response to the PNP personnel's dream of having an official email account under a secured, fast, and reliable digital platform. The PES offers convenience and synchronicity by allowing end users to use their email accounts as credentials for logging in to other existing PNP online systems. For this period, the PES has generated 228,431 email accounts for PNP personnel, offices, and units. Second, the PNP One Network or PON. True to its tagline, the PON has been the frontliner's fast lane to the digital highway by establishing connectivity among all PNP offices and units across the country. At present, the PON has completed the phases 1 and 2, which cover the establishment of core network at the ITMS server farm and connectivity between the NHQ and RHQs. The remaining phases will be unfolded through the PNP's Revitalized and Capability Enhancement or RACE Bill proposal. The DICTM emphasizes the importance of streamlining the PNP frontline processes and services by creating the Support to Operation Management Information System, or SOMIS. The SOMIS will integrate the mission-critical systems of the PNP offices to serve as a central system for accounting and monitoring of all issued permits, licenses, and clearances. The system is capable of generating accurate, reliable, and real-time reports necessary for planning, investigation, financial management, policy formulation, and decision-making. The goal of simplifying and harmonizing all human resource-related databases within the PNP gave birth to the Human Resource Management Information Systems, or HRMIS, armed with the tagline, "From Recruitment to Retirement." The HRMIS mitigates the challenges in human resource management by providing a single-access information system pertaining to personnel recruitment and administration, training management, payroll, logistics, healthcare monitoring, personnel clearance, and pension towards a collaborative and more efficient work. Next is the Internal Disciplinary Mechanism Information System, or IDMIS. IDMIS is an essential tool of cleanliness in ranks and line, with the Intensified Cleanliness Policy, or ICP, that aims to assist Internal Affairs Service, or IAS, in coming up with sound assessment of PNP personnel state of discipline by strengthening preventive, punitive, and restorative approach. The DICTM may have accomplished a lot in the past years, but it remains steadfast in introducing innovations to the PNP by an array of ICT-driven projects. The year 2022 will be a venue for the development and realization of the projects under the Medium-Term Information and Communication Technology Harmonization Initiative, or MITHI. With the smart policing on its way, the DICTM will carry on in making significant strides by implementing the projects programmed for calendar year 2022 that are included in the Endorsed Information System Strategic Plan, or ISSP, to DBM, as well as by reinforcing other programs that will thrust the process of keeping pace with other ASEAN law enforcement agencies. Through the lens of the DICTM, the PNP is seeing vividly the positive impacts of technology on its policing strategies, with greater focus on its ability to increase efficiency, enhance information sharing practices, and improve informational and analytical capacities through ICT. DICTM, leading digital transformation in the Philippine National Police.
So as we can see, I hope that you watch our presentation, and contrary, of course, to some reports, the PNP and the Philippines is still one of the safest countries in the world. And I hope that all of you here, especially our virtual visitors here, can be with us and visit the Philippines as well. And of course, we are always aspiring to be a highly capable, effective, and credible police force. And it just says here that the rise of our approval rating is not just the work of PNP alone, but of course with the help of our community, as we know, as our Mr. Robert Peel says, that the PNP is the community and community is the police. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, each and everyone.
Thanks so much, Police Lieutenant Khanal, for a very informative, fascinating talk. As our first speaker, Dr. Wu pointed out, law enforcement and ISP, as well as the small business owners, can collaborate for better cybersecurity. And also, Dr. Guda commented, police force of all Asian Pacific nations need to get trained in digital forensics and cybercrime investigations. So because of the current, like our era, so I think Philippines example, your example will be great for other countries to learn from. And then we have more questions in chat windows, so please stay with us and then answer those questions in chat window. We will really appreciate it.
Thank you. We have here one question from Phoenix Paristan. You mentioned that we can complain through the social media. How are you able to identify the veracity of the complaints, since it is more convenient to give random or false complaints online as opposed to physically lodging complaints? So it's a good question. Thank you very much. So, aside from, of course, the social media, of which we are monitoring 24/7, we are leading them towards our own official website, as based on what I have mentioned, the anti-cybercrime group e-complaint system, wherein you have to upload your government ID prior to, of course, lodging in or typing your complaints. So that is one of our validation, the government ID. So that, and of course, your contact number. And after that, the online investigator will contact you and of course get your whatever complaints that you have.
Thank you very much, Police Lieutenant Colonel Ann Salaya. But before you leave, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation to you. So could we have the screen? Yeah, okay. Police Lieutenant Colonel Maria Angela Salaya will present you this certificate of appreciation in grateful recognition for sharing your expertise and experience in thriving in the new normal through digital transformation, the Philippine National Police experience, the next generation of Asia-Pacific Internet leaders. Presented this 26th of February 2022 and the second day of 15th Asia-Pacific Next Generation Camp. Presented by Maggie Antonio, Sonyang Yang, and Tomi Matsumoto. Thank you very much, Colonel Salaya, Police Lieutenant Colonel Salaya. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much. Everyone, our last speaker is Mr. Tomohiro Ishibashi. He served at Hewlett Packard Japan Ltd. in 1998. He served at Weather News Science Sales Division first, and then he had served as a group leader of a mobile service since August 2003. He has been a director of a Weed Station Corporation since August 2006, and he has been a vice president at Weather News Americas Inc. since 2012. Mr. Tomohiro Ishibashi will give a talk titled Making Weather News More Accurate and Responsive, the Power of Technological Innovations and Human Supporters. Please welcome our last speaker.
Thank you very much for my introduction. Can I share my screen maybe? Okay, here's come. Okay. So, hi guys, I'm from Japan and my name is Tomohiro Ishibashi. You know, it's really difficult to pronounce everybody. So everybody call me Bashi. And by the way, in Japanese, Bashi means bridge, right? So I'm gonna be a bridge between weather and climate and the people. I'm gonna be a bridge, and that's my mission. And today I wanted to share my around 20 years experience in weather news. So I hope I can make something good inspiration for you guys. So let's start from my slide. Okay, so this is about us. The company name is Weather News. No space between weather and news. So weather news is one word for us. And we are now 36 years old company. We just focus on the weather service and not too big so far, but not too small. It's a kind of the middle size, but still have a venture spirit, startup spirit, I believe. And okay, this is huge. The fact, from 1999 to 2017. So climate-related disaster is huge. 2,245 billion. Wow, it's very, very huge. But our mission is decrease, you know, the disaster, climate-related disaster. And some people, you know, think like this: because of the climate is so big, you know, we are nothing, right? So as a human being, maybe especially as an individual, it's really we feel so small, but I think we can do something around that. And the very famous American the author Mark Twain used to said, everybody talking about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. That quote is very, you know, the famous, right? But I think if he lived right now, I wanted to say to Mark, okay, Mark, we can do something around weather right now. And the key is, I think, this devices, smartphone, supercomputer in our pocket. So we can do something about the weather, not change the weather itself, but I wanted to show this story today. Okay, so here is the structure of the weather industry. Very, very, you know, general process. So almost country has a national weather service, right? So they are the top. They deploy the weather station, they create the weather forecast. Then it comes to the middle guy like us, weather company, or maybe the internet company or something like that. They got the weather data, weather forecast from National Weather Service, and sometimes they, you know, create tiny, you know, works like you know, creating the icon or explained by the weather, you know, caster or something like that. Then on the bottom, consumer, audience, user, whatever you said, people, you know, see or check the weather information, right? This is a very, very, you know, the traditional weather, you know, structure. But we want to change a little bit. Not from the top-down structure, but the bottom-up. The people can participate to create the weather forecast itself. So that's our challenge. And the key, again, I said, smartphone. Now, every single person can become a weather station through these kind of the, supercomputer, right? So it's really, really difficult to imagine for you guys, but in Japan, maybe it's only in Japan in this earth, there is a huge weather reports community is, working so hard. A lot of the people enjoy, to share the weather report, and we use that kind of report to create a more and more accurate weather forecast. So let me explain more detail. So how to make the weather forecast? It's very simple. There's a 3-step: input the data, weather data, and calculate it using the model, and output. Maybe show to the, icon or image or whatever. So these 3 steps is very, very important to create a weather forecast. And we are very, very doing the same thing, but it's a little bit different comparing the National Weather Service. So let me first explain the input the data. In case of Japan, the National Weather Service has a 1,300 weather station. It's official weather station deployed by the National Weather Service. But we have 10 times more. So we deploy very small, cheap weather station sometime to our customer, or maybe we give away some sensor to our app user. So we got a lot of the information, weather information to, our company. But the most important thing is not the hardware weather, station. We call hardware, but anyway, every day, it's a day, every day, we got 180,000 weather report from our app user. And we can success to input that kind of the data to our original weather forecast model. So these kind of the sensing, weather reports, sensing data by the people is really, really make everything change. And the next phase is calculate. We also have a lot of the weather model, and thanks for the AWS, Amazon Web Service, we can use right now. We don't have to, buy the supercomputers, using our, the tax or something like that. It's really, really easy and reasonable to using the high performance computing on cloud. So now it's changed the weather model or calculation, the world right now. So we can use the crowd computing. And the last, the average, the weather forecast grid, which means the size of the forecast area is the National Weather Service average weather forecast grid is 20 kilometers square. So every 20 kilometer, they creating the weather forecast. But now we succeed to every single 1 kilometer, we calculate every single square and creating the weather forecast, and it's really, really accurate. The fact is this: comparing the JMA, National Weather Service in Japan, we are about the 8 point ahead for the accuracy. So we can provide more accurate weather forecasts rather than the National Weather Service provide. So this is our story, and here's our content itself. So this is one of the very a viewpoint from the weather guys. The Guerrilla thunderstorm is one of the difficult weather forecast, right? So the thunderstorm is something like this, okay? From the morning, sunny, 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 then the sky going to be gray, and 30 minutes later, it's poured, boom, huge rainfall, and 15 minutes later, it's going to be sky again, the sunny again. So that kind of very small scale, the heavy weather forecast is really, really difficult if you using the general forecast model. But we have a lot of the weather photo from the user, and we using the AI technology, and we recognize the shape of the crowd from the weather report. And the smartphone right now has a GPS, very, very good cam, and they have a they can calculate the angle of the cam. So GPS angle is really easy to detect which kind of the shape the crowd is the growing, right? So we calculate all the kind of the photo from the user and detect and to make the forecast just before 30 minutes the thunderstorm happen. So that is our very, very famous app, the service, which we call Guerrilla Thunderstorm Alert. And that's accuracy is so good so far. And this is another the AI technology. So average or maybe traditional weather guys love the number of the the temperature or the wind speed or air pressure or something like that, right? They love such kind of the weather, which change to transfer to the number itself. But we think the photo itself has a lot of the weather information as well. So if you set the snow high weather station, or the humidity, or the rainfall measurement, such kind of the hardware, if you deploy every 1 kilometer along with the road, it's really expensive, right? But just using existing the cam, the road cam image, is free, and we can detect a lot of the information from that kind of just the live cam. So we can detect the the road snow situation using AI technology. It's a thick, thin, or sherbet, or the heavy ice road or something like that. Then all that kind of data getting to the calculation and the AI model, then we finally can make the output of the road forecast, right? So just the cam, just the live cam, going to be a very, very good weather station. So this is a groundbreaking technology, I think. So everybody can be a weather station. That's what I mean. And disaster map, this is also a very the popular the service which made it by the partnership with Twitter. So we fixed the hashtag disaster report or something like that. Then Twitter and us and a lot of the the portal site also promote this kind of the hashtag, and everybody reports existing disaster situation through attach this hashtag. So I think the most of the big broadcasting TV station they also reported the disaster, of course, but they always go to very symbolic place, right? They go to they bring the cam to the big radio station, or maybe a very famous place like the Times Square in New York or something like that, right? Then the reporter says something around that, but we want to know how it's going on in my hometown, right? So cover all of the disaster situation. Sometimes it's happened badly, but sometimes it's just the It doesn't happen at all. But anyway, so this kind of the map also very, very important to see what is going on actually across Japan. So just a photo and comment also, bring a lot of the information to the user. So this is my final presentation slide. So we start from Japan. We think we have a 4 season plus rainy season, and we hit typhoon every year, average 26. So I think it's really good, the benchmark country to, create something new around, decrease the severe weather. So I hope in this country, only in Japan so far, it's happened, but a lot of people can participate and do something about the severe weather. And I think that kind of the heart might be, solve our big issue like a climate change or maybe the severe weather. So I hope it's, this is final. So I hope it's make, some inspiration for you guys. And if you have any problem around the weather, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Bash. I think we should contact you not just for weather, but for the future internet too. So we have a question here from our grandpa Tommy. I have ever heard from weather news people that 500 mesh weather station will be your target. What will be happen and what we can expect from 500 millimeter mesh?
Yeah, so right now, so we have another weather model which called city weather forecast. So all of the, the building shape and the ground situation, such kind of the data should input to our model. And we finally make it. Tommy, not the 500 meter, we succeed 25 meters so far. So you can enjoy the weather forecast in front of the Tokyo station. And now it's happened. So, it's all depends on the input data. And if we got a lot of the input data, including not only the weather data, but also the shape of, the building and so on, we can, create more and more, the small mesh forecast.
I also have a question. So Bash, so you use user-centered technology, and then your weather service improve the accuracy and then like immediacy through user participation, right? So probably that experience, and that's the center of your new idea, innovative idea. Then do you see any implications for other areas through your experiences and the user-centered future of the internet?
Yes, so I think when it's called Web 2.0, no, maybe anyway, so now the Web 3.0, I think, but so I think from 2000, maybe the 2 or 3, 4, the crowdsourcing, the word of the crowdsourcing going to be a little bit buzzword. And actually we started our weather community on the same era. And I think the traffic information and maybe the restaurant, the rating, or maybe, there's a lot of the, the crowdsourced kind of the weather, the internet service around there. But to talking about the weather, nobody succeeded in. But I think I think the weather is really, really good to, you know, to that, for that kind of the, you know, the crowdsourcing structure, because okay, let's talk about the restaurant rating app, like maybe the Yelp, or I don't know, Foursquare or something like that. So it's everybody, you know, using the app, and because of the, you know, the maybe people reports or rating some restaurant, right? So I think that the people to people communication sometimes make, you know, the fight between the people, and so sometimes it makes some, you know, the bad thing around the internet. So right, but to talking about the weather, everybody report the weather, right? There's no fight at all. Rain is rain, sunny is sunny, right? The good days, bad days, it's related, you know, it's a human, you know, side of the sense, right? But the weather itself is a, you know, nobody can change the weather because everybody report rain, you know, a lot, right? So I think as a, you know, the viewpoint of the crowdsourcing structure, the weather is really, really good because the people's, you know, intention, or, you know, people's, you know, direction doesn't, you know, affect it to the output. So still some people send the right, you know, the fake weather report. It's a very, very small percentage of the people send the fake one, but we can detect it very easily. But, you know, the next people said sunny, and we can, you know, we also have a satellite image, radar image, so we can detect the fake report very, very single way. So I think the 3 point from the crowdsourcing, the weather is very good. So now we are focused on, you know, the weather so far.
Okay, so we have 2 more questions. I hope you can quickly answer those questions. So do you have any plan to expand the supporter business in Asia? And the other question is, can thick fog be detected and predicted accurately and timely nowadays? So thick fog and then human factor made best helicopter crashed and then killed Taiwanese 3-star chief of general staff and 7 senior officers.
I see. So yeah, so I think the RiveCam is a very, very good solution for the helicopter, or, you know, the aviation. And actually in Japan, we support a lot of the helicopter, and we deploy a lot of the RiveCam around, you know, the mountain or river or something like that. So I think as a B2B part, we can do a lot of the thing to the aviation industry. And now we already support a lot of the Asian airplane, you know, the company. So on the B2B side, we already have a lot of the business in Asia. But the, you know, B2C side, the smartphone or app kind of the business, we still makes in Japan is main, and maybe the rest of the 15% of the sales comes from the China and the Korea. So we still have a very, very small step in Asia, but of course we have a plan to expand our, you know, this unique weather forecast system to not only the Asia but the rest of the world.
Thanks so much, Bash. It was very inspiring and fascinating talk. Thanks so much for joining us today. And Maggie, go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bashi. And before you leave, we would like to present you this virtual appreciation certificate. So this is for APNG presents this to Tomohiro Ishibashi in grateful recognition for sharing his expertise and experience in making weather news more accurate and responsive, the power of technological innovations of human supporters to the next generation of Asia Pacific Internet leaders, presented this 26th day of February 2022 on the second day of the 15th Asia Pacific Generation Camp. So this is presented by myself, Maggie Antonio as APNG Camp Chair, Sun Yang, our APNG Chair, and of course, our grandpa, Tommy Matsumoto, our APNG mentor. So thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we proceed to our next part of emerging technologies, I would like to request everyone, if it's okay for you to take a photo of this session, so that this will also be considered as a break. So if it's okay for you to turn on your cameras, especially our invited speakers, thank you for being with us at this time. And we will have several screenshots because we have 100 participants for this day. Great number for today. Okay, so APNG local camp team, I need your assistance on this one. So please keep on smiling at least for 5 seconds. Okay, thank you. Ready? Smile. Thank you. The second screen, third screen, fourth screen, and then our last screen. Okay, thank you very much, especially for our invited speaker, Dr. Benson Wu, Police Lieutenant Colonel Angela Salaya, Tomohiro Ishibashi, and Dr. Khanal. So we hope you stay tuned for the fellows and the attendees for our next portion, our CFP presentation on emerging technologies. Yang?
Hi everyone. We are going to start right away, right, Maggie?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yep. Thanks so much for joining us for invited speakers session. It was great, a lot to learn. And then now we are moving on to our next session, our call for papers, the selected paper session. Our first speaker is Ketan, who was scheduled yesterday, but because of the time limit and then our management hiccups, so he kindly accepted today's presentation. Thanks so much, Ketan. And please go ahead and please welcome Ketan.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hope I'm loud and clear to everyone. Yeah. So I'm Ketan Chaturmutha. I'm a PhD student at IIT Hyderabad in India. I'm pursuing my PhD in design and working on passenger drones currently. And this paper presentation, what I'm presenting in front of you is from my past work, what I have done into like teaching, into education. So as we had a topic of education yesterday, so I thought of writing on it and surely presenting like how things have evolved with on the digital platform. So this paper talks about mainly the course work which has been taken with the students at Design Institute. So form development technique in product design education. So the introduction of this paper talks about the e-learning, which has currently grown with the current pandemic situation everywhere. And it talks about how teaching methods have changed tremendously and how teachers have adapted different methods and tools to overcome these new challenges. So with this, and how even the students had adapted new digital tools like especially in the product design background, students have been adapting different uh, 3D development tools as well as rendering methods, sketching methods, and all. So one of the softwares which is currently often being used by the students, that is Blender, which has been exploited by the student a lot. So basically, I'm taking you through a course which is about a form development exercise. So how students, develop their form visualization power, how they develop their form exploration techniques, and how this further helps them during developing a product. And along with this, there's a process of biomimicry which has been incorporated so that it also helps the students to build and innovate different products, as well as to build a certain form language. Like why I'm saying form language is because, like when you see a product, there's a certain language how designers communicate with each other with respect to products. Where we generally very commonly we use these terms like, the product is looking beautiful, the product is looking smart. But then there's more beyond that. When a designer communicates, there's more in-depth study of that form and how to analyze that form, how to communicate rightly about that form. So it's a language, what we call it's a form language. So through this course, Elements of Form, what I had taken into with the product design students at MVP College of Architecture and Center for Design in Nashik, India. So this exercise evolve uh, was to evolve a product based on the study of mechanisms and forms in nature, and as well like to employ analogies as a tool for creative design while developing these forms. So what you see below is right now the framework which was been defined. Like this is out of my 10 years of experience into product design and my teaching practices, which helped me to build this, how to go about this exercise, how to enhance the form visualization power of those students, and how to build a form language as well, and which will help them even further to design and innovate. So, firstly, to identify the complexity, like, and then to know the mechanisms in nature, then to explore those attributes, what you like when you look into the nature and you figure out certain attributes, how to explore those attributes through sketches, then how to build those forms and the form language, and then relate it, how you can innovate. So moving ahead, this is the first project I'm presenting right now of a student named Sumedh Shivnagi. So how we really went into this exercise was like students were being asked to, really look into different uh, different species in nature, which they can select, you know, from where they can get inspired from. So we know that this is a general biomimicry technique. You can always look into the nature and take inspiration from that. But then it's not just about taking inspiration. It is about looking in depth into the nature. So how you can look into depth into the nature. So the students were being asked like to go and study all the functions and the characteristics of that species, and how this further can help you develop and evolve a product, and especially how to visualize a different product out of it, how to give a vision of a product especially. So the second part was like students were, once they had actually decided on to, okay, if they're taken owl, they need to look into what are the characteristics of an owl, what is the form of an owl speaking about. So they were asked to derive attributes out of it and to understand and study those attributes very closely, whether when they are exploring it with sketches. Like you see there are 4 attributes being defined over here: majestic, uh, determined, and focused. So now when you're exploring with sketches, they need to recheck again, how the sketches are really talking about those attributes or not. So they have to even evaluate later that whether they are really talking about those attributes. So that is where you start building your form language. You start understanding, the student starts understanding, how to communicate those forms with certain words. So it has been rightly communicated when So it's more about, when you develop a product at the end of the project, or even in the practical practices, like even in practices, like when you develop certain products, when those products are supposed to get into the market, are those products communicating the right meaning out of it? It's very important. So that is what, the entire learning from this project is. And this online platform has really given an add-on, like to really explore digitally in a quick format as well. So the third stage which comes into this is about developing those forms into 3D. So once these students start developing this 3D forms, they start understanding the visual language. Is that really getting converted over here? Because when you look over here, it is more about the 2D sketches, what you see. They are trying to sketch it in 3D, but really converting that into a 3D and analyzing that, whether that form is really talking about what they have visualized about. So that's quite important. And as I said earlier, the open source platform like Blender, it gave really an upper hand to the students to explore and definitions to a form, with so much of flexibility in the tool, allowing students to quickly develop these 3Ds and explore to different extents. And then being at home, even like, it wasn't a task for students to get the clay and, develop those forms, what they have visualized, and convert it into 3D models, so that they even physically touch that form and understand whether those attributes are getting converted or not. So again, enhancing the visual language as well as the visual power of the students. And then the final conversion into a product, which was a very important part of this project, because what happens is, like, you have taken an inspiration, but if you don't understand how to convert that inspiration into a product, it's a challenge. So that is why the framework which was been defined, it helped those students to really understand, how once they how they have looked into the species, how they have understood the entire characteristics, the functions into that species, and how those functions can again now help those students to give a vision for a product. You don't say that, like, at the students level, we don't make, and for this exercise, we don't encourage them, like, you go on to that extent where you really develop that product. But even to give a vision of a product is quite important as a product designer. That's what I feel. So that is where those students really start converting and those ideas into a product, those inspirations into a product. And while doing that, it is also very important what they have done in the past about exploring those attributes, and how those attributes are again carried ahead into that product as well, because they have a direct relation with the function what they have seen in the nature. So those attributes, as they have a direct relationship with that species when they explored it, similarly those attributes right now are having a direct relationship with this product which has been developed as an aid for humans for night vision. So this is the second project of a student called Sean, where again on the digital platform they had developed this by understanding an octopus, by studying the octopus function, which is the propulsion mechanism what octopus has. And there are a lot of different functions what even he studied, but then one of the major mechanism was the propulsion. And then he even understood the characteristics of the octopus when it is into different positions. So giving an attribute to those characteristics. So if you see these two images, one of the image talks about the fluid, and another image talks about the flare in that particular stance of that octopus, and then how you digitally start converting that into sketches. And then further, if you look at this complete ideation board, it completely talks about how the student had gone through the digital sketching to the form development, and how the form development has even helped him to understand the process as well as enhancing the visualization part. Because if you look at this form, it is quite complex. The surfaces, like they move, around each other and developing those complex surfaces. It is not easy, when you be at home, but certain tools now, they are really helping students to do this kind of work even by being at home. And the best part is they are able to understand the form language, the attributes, what they have understood after studying those positions of octopus, the attributes, what they are communicating, and transferring those attributes into those forms, what they have developed ahead. And then the interesting part, what you see over here, is the Ocean Explorer, what the student had developed at the end. So this is a complete, like this process takes a lot of, from the student side as well as from the mentor side, where they really sit and crack till that end, where they are able to crack the idea from the inspiration what they have taken. That was the propulsion of an octopus, how you use it, you use it to innovate a product or to develop a design of a product, how a product can use or be it can aid human needs. So that is the ultimate aim of the product design process always. So this is where we see like how nicely the student has detailed out each and every detail what he has understood and developed the final product for it. So the concluding part of this entire exercise, how I conclude this is uh, the illustration approach and the model techniques what the student has developed with this, and the visualization skills what they have developed during this entire design process have been really different from the way it was been going in past 5 to 7 years of my experience. And then this method has also which has been utilized by the design students, is also a flexible framework which can be easily adapted in the design environments which are more practice-based environments, or in the studios, the design studios, to really innovate different products which might not be existing into the market, or it can be just used to develop a form of a product which is already existing into a market. And this study basically can really help. Like there have been such practices, but then really understanding the form and the language of the form is quite important when you really take it from, even from the nature. It's not just that you mimic from the nature, but then how you mimic from the nature is quite important. So that's the concluding remarks what I have. I would really like to acknowledge to the institute where I was teaching earlier, that was MVP College of Architecture and Center for Design Nasik, and the students who made and Sean to contribute for this work as well. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ketan. And if our fellows and attendees have questions for Ketan, feel free to type them in our chat box so that Ketan can answer them while we proceed with our next presentation. Okay, so thank you, Ketan.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so for our next presentation will be from the Philippines. It will be presented by Gian Lloyd Jacoba, and his topic for emerging technologies will be Twitter data classifier web application, how Twitter data can create value for the government. So without further delay, could we ask Gian to share his screen?
Hello, good afternoon to everyone in the Philippines. Good day to everyone. I will share my screen for a moment.
Okay.
Can you share my screen? Okay.
It's okay now.
Okay. So good afternoon once again. Hi, I am Gian Lloyd Jacoba, the leader for Team PogChamps. PogChamps is the chosen name for our group, obviously. But I will introduce to you my classmates who contributed greatly in this paper, namely Joshua Duliao, Clyde Formoso, Francis Nashasmin, Jo Marie Lopez, Tresha May Magsanok, Atheny Marzan, Federico Trinidad, and Christian Harel Zuniga. Those are my teammates in formulating our research paper. So without further ado, let us begin. Again, I am from St. Louis University, Baguio City, Philippines, and our research title is entitled Twitter Data Classifier Web Application, How Twitter Data Can Create Value for the Government. Okay, so the increasing data in social media makes it a good subject for data analytics, right? It has been tapped on by the different sectors like businesses and firms to create value for them. Okay, so again, administration is facing some challenges with regards to governance, and with the help of data analytics, they can be introduced to the relevant problems that should be addressed. This undertaking that we did as a group aims to produce a web application that will extract tweets from Twitter and process these tweets by applying data analytics to produce information that will be of value to the government and help them improve the effectiveness of their governance. So a machine learned model was trained for the categorization of the tweets gathered from the Twitter accounts of different news sites from the Philippines. This model was then integrated to the web application and was used to categorize new tweets that are being scraped by the web application. This web application that we created can create value for the government by showing the tweets that are under certain categories and can help them identify what are the topical discussions that are being talked about on Twitter or on social media. Okay, so good governance. So Philippines is a land of information and politics. So what I mean is good governance is a measurement of how the public institutions conduct public affairs and manage the public resources. This approach government that has a system founded in peace and justice that protects people's human rights. But if we are to achieve good governance, the government should know the needs of the country and act on it. Social media usage in politics poses a huge impact on good governance as it enables people to democratically engage in a country's political process. And when the people engage in a healthy debate with the government, it will be both beneficial for its people and for the nation itself, right? So again, millions and billions of data are being produced on social media each day. Some of it go to waste without realizing its importance. Although we might not know what happens to our data, if data is there and not and just being wasted, why not try harnessing it and use it for the betterment of the world? Of course, there are some limitations that we can do with the data, but in some extent, we can at least harness it and make it for the betterment of ours, right? So again, not only with this paper that we created, not only will the government be kept up to date with how the social media world is reacting to a certain issue, there will be also, they are going to be updated always, and they can immediately respond to immediate concerns, right? So let's go to the next. So again, the problem is that the amount of attention from the government is leaning towards um, certain issues that are not, for example, if I may, there are some certain issues here in the Philippines that are being covered up more. And then those issues that are not being, covered are, just piling up on top of one of the other. So they're being ignored constantly. So of course, with any project, we will come across some problems with regards to the data that are being collected. We then establish two objectives, which is on our presentation right now. Number one, we aim to develop the machine learned model for the web application, which will present a visualization of the results. and to determine the best classification algorithm to be used by comparing the performance metrics. I will not go to specific details as our discussion could last up to an hour already if I were to explain it. But basically, we encountered a lot of noisy data. When we say noisy data, data this is not relevant to our main topic, so to say. So for example, we have a tweet that we scraped or we got from Twitter that just says, read here, right? And then a link is just provided there. So we removed those kinds of tweets, which was very tedious to do, but very rewarding also. Also, we must admit also the first iteration of the train model had low accuracy that we had to do that we had to redo the whole application, then feed it with newer data. And lastly, the data set we included had a wide range of languages, which is very problematic since we scrape English and Filipino tweets all together. So as a team, we decided to scrape English tweets all for the meantime. I will be explaining these issues as we go further. Okay, so let's move on to its sustainability, scalability, and replicability. So you may ask, how is it sustainable? How is it scalable? How can it be replicated? Well, first of all, our project is sustainable in a sense that social media is here to stay, and it is deeply ingrained in our lives already. For some people, social media may not be their ways of communicating, but the growing younger population almost have all of these social medias at hand. It is scalable also because you can collect data not just from Twitter. You can do it on Facebook also, YouTube, TikTok, and some other sites. Lastly, replicability. This study or website that we did can be conducted on other countries as well because the API that we used actually used a location-based Twitter scraping method that collects tweets from a certain coordinate. So then, how can we use this application for good governance? Well, simply put, the government can use this tool as a way to support their decisions, especially if they have a decision support system. For people who don't know decision support systems, it's basically a program or a system that help people decide. This is only available for people who have high positions in a company or a government. Actually, this helps them decide if something will be good or bad, or is it or a specific action they need to go or they need to stop. So that's the decision support system. Also, the government can literally see what's the most trending issue out there that they need to address, right? So in this way, people who have smaller voices, metaphorically, can also be heard. You heard of the terms trending, hot topic, or something like that. So if something's trending, right, you can actually see it real time and use that knowledge to formulate, an action plan. So how did we do it? We first had to choose the Twitter accounts that we will scrape. For this instance, we used news outlets as our basis, as this is already confirmed news, and we can easily classify it to train our model. Why news outlets again? They are already, if you can recall, fake news is very rampant all around the social media. So for us to have tweets that has integrity, we had to go for social verified news outlets. In that way, we can make sure that it's really a verified information, right? Okay, so after that, we had to collect over 10,000 tweets for over the past month. I know some of you may be shocked on how much 10,000 tweets is worth, but this is too little for us. Some of you guys here might also be shocked how little the tweets we collected. But I'm telling you, we had to collect another 2,000 just so our accuracy will rise on an acceptable rate. Okay, so after collecting that amount of data, we proceeded to annotate and clean the data. Of course, not all the tweets that we collected were perfect. If we are to have a huge accuracy with the classifications of our machine learn model, we had to clean everything, each tweet one by one. At least we were a group of 9 students, and we had time, so we scrubbed the data, verified each tweet, and we were left with 8,000 tweets to work with. This was done for one of our subjects, and time was not on our side already when we were finishing it already. So we had to make do what we had. We used Python as a machine learning model with Twint as our tutor scraper, the one that we collected the tweets. Twint is a library used in Python. Python, again, is a programming language mainly used for machine learning. So as I mentioned before, we pre-process the data before feeding it into the machine. So after doing the data analysis, the outcome would greatly benefit the government because number one, they would know their priority or at least be aware of its presence. And second, the amount of time and money that the government can be minimized due to reasons that they have the data gathered already just by analyzing these tweets via data classification. We don't have to manually scour through tweets, analyzing them one by one. We just have to feed it with a machine learning algorithm, and then that's it, basically. And as we all know, the importance of the government prioritizing a particular sector is very important for a wide range of reasons. So, in conclusion, the future of governance is already starting with social media. And as such, it can go both ways, good and evil. But if our data is utilized for good, the government will surely know what to do and what to focus first. It can also be a cost-effective action plan for the government to implement. So that is all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Gian Lloyd Jacoba, for that presentation. And for those who have questions for this topic on Twitter data classifier, please feel free to put them on our chat box. At the same time, I would like to reiterate that if you would want to share your screenshots for the APNG camp, please feel free to do them. But don't forget the hashtag APNG Camp 15 so that we could also check out your post and maybe we'll be asking for your permission to reshare it on the APNG camp page. Okay, so for our next speaker is Carisha Marie Priscillas. She is a college student from the St. Louis University, Baguio City in the Philippines. And her topic will be a predictive study on the relevance of Twitter in disaster risk management. So, Carisha?
Thank you, Maggie. All right, let me just share my screen. All right, so once again, good afternoon to everyone here. Good afternoon to our mentors and co-fellows present. Once again, my name is Carisha, a student from St. Louis University studying computer science. So a quick background of this paper, this was actually a deliverable for our data analytics course and artificial intelligence course. And thus, the paper is entitled A Predictive Study on the Relevance of Twitter in Disaster Risk Management. Just a quick rundown of what I'm here to present today. I'm here to present a quick introduction of our paper, followed by our methodology and our results. To begin with, so we all know that natural disasters are unavoidable, and arise without any alarm or warning. So these are adverse events such as floods, typhoons, earthquakes, and etc. Currently, these disasters hit us more frequently and more catastrophically due to the effects of climate change in our world. Some prominent disasters that occurred globally include Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy from the United States, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake followed by a massive tsunami in Japan, and super typhoons Ondoy, Ompong, and Yolanda here in the Philippines. These impacts of these events are very catastrophic and tremendous and can easily lead to major losses in our economy. In my country, the Philippines, due to our location, we are more prone to tropical cyclones or typhoons that lead to flash floods and landslides. Based on studies, the Philippines experience about 8 to 9 typhoons on average every year. But despite the strength and damages caused by disasters are still inevitable and in a way repetitive in nature. Thus, why it is important to have disaster management techniques in place where procedures and solutions are applied before, during, and after disasters to help mitigate the impact that it would cause. And one factor to have an effective disaster management plan is to have a stable communication channel. And social media has a high possibility as a communication channel. The reason behind this is because technologies like social media have a high potential to process massive amounts of information, human interaction, and dependability all at the same time. And these are crucial factors, especially in the midst of disasters, since information during disasters are very versatile and time-bound. So for example, we have received news at this moment, and 10 minutes from now on, it may be different. From social media as well, we are able to acquire different disaster-related information from various users who are both directly and indirectly part of these disasters. Now, among all the social media platforms available, Twitter has been recognized as the most impressive social media platform, especially in times of crisis. This is because it is a microblogging website where users post a tweet, and a tweet is a message composed of only 140 characters. This means that a tweet is very short and very direct to the point. But there are also problems in using Twitter, and one of the challenges of Twitter deals with is that data from users or tweets are both of a huge amount and sometimes are irrelevant and noisy. Thus, why it is essential for us data analysts to find a means or a way to filter and make sense of the data. Knowing this, we were now faced with 3 problem statements. The first being, how can we effectively utilize Twitter data in disaster risk management during disasters in the form of a system? The second is, what efficient technique can be done to filter and classify the data gathered from Twitter? And lastly, how can Twitter data predict or pinpoint certain locations of disasters and give relevant information in real time? Knowing these problems, we now identified 3 main objectives that we aim to achieve at the end of this paper. The first is to be able to pre-process. This is where we should transform the Twitter data into usable information. And once it's transformed, we have to create a predictive model of the tweets gathered and differentiate their classifications. Once we have a model, we now create a recommender system based on the predicted classifications. To discuss our methodology, I have divided it into 5 parts: data gathering, pre-processing, classification, modeling, and application. For data gathering, Python offers a library which lets developers access tweets using access keys, and this library is known as Tweepy. So with this library, we were able to create a program that would extract specific tweets from a specific date and situation using keywords. And we were able to store all these tweets into a CSV file. So as a group, we decided to select the typhoons that hit the Philippines to be our specific situation. Thus, the hashtags we used to extract tweets were hashtag Yolanda, #UlyssesPH, and #Ondoy. Once the data was gathered, we first had to manually classify them to remove irrelevant tweets and to also raise the accuracy of our model. And for most of our pre-processing, we had to use neat text, which offers a method to remove contents using a custom pattern, which is generated using regex statements. So this helped us remove bytecode stuck inside the tweet. To further prepare the data for the model, we needed to first normalize the text using the regex. And after that, we placed the tweet inside a method for tokenization and lemmatization. In tokenization, we separate each text word by word and place them in an array. And in lemmatization, we remove the stop words to keep the useful content of the text. So for this part, we were able to find Filipino stop words. This is for us to be able to process tweets that are also in Filipino. And once that was done, we then performed stemming for each of the words in order to reduce each word into its word stem. To visualize that process, here is an example of a tweet. We have a tweet, #Yolanda is very strong and causing large number of incidents. We now need to normalize and clean the text using our regex expression, and we got rid of the symbol and now have a uniform font case. Then applying tokenization, each word in this text is now separated and belong to one array. In lemmatization, we took out the words is, very, and off, which are stop words. Lastly, we were able to get the word stem. So for our classification, we adopted a classification method found in the paper of Wang and Yi. They proposed 4 classifications, which are situational updates, emotional support, call for action, and donation. Since only the processed data was left and had no classifications yet, we had to classify the tweets depending on the words inside the tweet. To do this, we created a set of words that is closely related to each classification. Now, after this, in order for us to compare the values of the set of words and tweets, we had to apply vectorization. We used the term frequency inverse document technique, which is a simple tool to measure the relevance of a word from the data by calculating the frequency of the term with the value of how common the word is in the document. Now that the set of related words and tweets have been vectorized, we now use the Jacquard similarity algorithm in order to get the scores of the tweets depending on each classification. After that, we got the highest value and assigned the classifications to the tweets. After all tweets have been classified, we now use the TF-IDF vectorizer to transform the tweets into numeric data for the model. We then decided to use 2 popular classification models, the support vector machine or SVM and naive Bayes. We had to divide the data into a training data which had 1,416 tweets and a test data with 472 tweets. And apart from the accuracy of the models, we also decided to assess different performance metrics. And also, we considered using the 10-fold cross-validation method to measure the average accuracy of the models. Once our models have been trained, we would now integrate it into our application, which is the recommender system. With this system, we implemented the expert system Pike, which is a logic programming that is coded in Python. So as a result of all our processes, we were able to get 4,600 tweets initially. And after we pre-processed and classified the tweets, we were left with 1,887 tweets. And in that number, 1,242 tweets were classified under situational updates, while 175 tweets under emotional support, 251 were classified under call for action, and 220 under donations. This data means to say that most people tweet about updates during calamities. Due to the unbalanced nature of our data, we had to create a new data set where the total number of tweets per classification is now balanced. So this is to observe whether there was a significant difference between the performance metrics. The results of when we use the balanced data set are as shows. So we have the naive Bayes classifier and SVM classifier. Based on these results, the naive Bayes classifier shows a total accuracy score of 85%, while the SVM shows a total accuracy of 86%. When we compared the results to when we used a unbalanced data set, the accuracy score of the naive Bayes went up by 1%, and the accuracy score of the SVM remained the same. Looking at the confusion matrix this time of the naive Bayes, 19% were almost correctly classified as situational updates, 24.04 as emotional support, 21.10 as donation, and the remaining 20.86 as call for action tweets. On the other hand, the SBM classifier, almost 23% are correctly classified as situational updates and 20.47 as emotional support, 21.25 as donations, and 21.17 as call for action tweets. Now this table is the accuracy of both classifiers when we did the 10-fold cross-validation. The naive Bayes had an average accuracy of 82%, while the SVM had an average accuracy of 86%. This result then indicates that the SVM support vector machine model is more accurate in predicting the classifications of a specific tweet and would be used for our system. Moving on to our recommender system. This system has two main features. First is to classify the tweets, and second is to recommend possible actions based on that classified tweet. Now, each classification had different facts and rules which output depending on the tweet and location input. This is a snippet of our system. You would enter the tweet here and enter the location next and click classify. So as mentioned, the results would depend whether on the classification of the tweet. So when we have situational update tweets, we get the typhoon signal of the person and their current location, and we output possible actions and precautions for the user. As for call for action tweets, we get the location of the user and print out evacuation centers and hotline numbers near their area. For donation tweets, since most of these tweets consist of queries, we decided to get the location of the user and output different organizations that are designated to help collect donations in that area. Lastly, for emotional support tweets, we output a random inspirational quote and hotline numbers from the National Center for Mental Health if needed. After every user input and classification into the system, it would be saved into the model. This is to increase the performance of the system and acquire more data, making the system more dynamic. So to conclude this presentation, we were able to create a recommender system using the data we have gathered from Twitter. Twitter data may be noisy, but applying the appropriate measures and techniques would result in valuable data that was very essential for us to make the models work. An improved version of this system may be put in place to further mitigate the adverse effects of disasters in an area. So this ends my presentation. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that nice presentation, Carisha. And I hope our other folks would learn something from the disaster risk management that is done there in Baguio City. And please check out the chat box in case there are questions in there for you. Okay? Okay. So moving forward, for our next speaker, we will have John Larin Corsino, also a student from St. Louis University of Baguio City in the Philippines. And his talk will be about analyzing Twitter sentiment for forecasting cryptocurrency market movement using machine learning. Okay, so take it away, John Larin.
Thank you so much, Maggie, for that introduction. Let me share my screen real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's on.
Yeah, all right. So, hi, good day to everyone. Before we start, I'd like to introduce myself again. I am John Laren Corsino from St. Louis University, Philippines, and I'm currently taking up computer science, and I'll be giving a very quick presentation discussing our paper submitted as a requirement in our school last year, entitled Analyzing Twitter Sentiment for Forecasting Cryptocurrency Market Movement Using Machine Learning. And before we start, I'd also like to mention my group mates who helped me in developing the paper. They are Edgar Allen Napalia, Jobin Roy Capuyan, John Ray Castillo, Romeo Diego, Glenn Patrick Mariano, and Marika Piludan. Okay, so let's start. So before anything else, I first want to explain what cryptocurrencies are. And I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of it. Cryptocurrency in a nutshell are basically digital assets that are built on top of a decentralized network. A decentralized network basically removes the concept of having a central authority governing anything within that network, and instead authority is given to each node or element within the network, making each node almost self-autonomous, thus giving the concept of being quote-unquote decentralized. So now that we've established what cryptocurrencies are, let's now dive into what is happening or what currently is happening. So the cryptocurrency hype started back in 2017 when it multiplied capitals by the hundreds because of rampant speculation in its markets. To retail investors, volatility brought about by these speculations can produce extraordinary returns quicker than any other investments. But as we all know, volatility goes both ways. And when I say both ways, it means it can either make you lots of money or make you lose a lot of money. All right, so advancements and innovations in the digital domain profoundly affect many things that are immeasurable. However, despite the ideas and reasonable solutions to problems or questions, these technological advancements come hand to hand with one another. Along with economical benefits, any new technology also comes with a certain number of problems. So the problem with crypto isn't really about the fact that you can potentially lose money, since trading cryptocurrency, because it's still fair game since you're trading. The problem rather is that people are getting into these markets without doing their own research or without due diligence. A lot of retail investors nowadays use their favorite TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube influencers as their sole basis for their investment decisions, which in my opinion can hardly be called research at all. So social media hype is exaggerating how easy it is to make life-changing profits in crypto, hiding the other side of the coin. I've seen people invest their life savings into cryptocurrency without doing any research and eventually regret their decision as they watch their capital lose in value in a matter of days, in a matter of days, or sometimes in a matter of hours. I myself have earned lost a considerable amount of money in this space. So moving on. With that said, the aim of our paper is to create a machine learned model that can potentially be utilized in forecasting the rise and fall of cryptocurrency rates using artificial intelligence and data science techniques in an attempt to lessen the risk for newer investors that are getting into this very volatile market. So possible use cases for the machine learned model, if improved upon, it can potentially be utilized within apps like CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and even personal finance app like Happiness, which is actually my startup here in the Philippines. Just a quick plug. We're actually planning on adding a stocks and crypto forecast as part of our main features in Happiness. And we're going to be utilizing an improved version of the paper's machine learned model. If you want to find out more, you can visit our website at happiness.com. You can also utilize the results of the model for automated alerts to notify investors that about potential profits or losses based on the forecast and many more. So moving on to the methodology. So just to give you a quick overview of what we did, we basically scraped tweets from Twitter for sentiment analysis and created a multivariate time series model using the tweets. Historical market cap of the cryptocurrencies and the volume of the tweets as the time-dependent variables on a weekly time frame, and use that model to forecast future movement of the coins. So for the data collection, we've collected tweets from 2017 to 2021. They were scraped using SNS Scrape, a library available in Python to let us scrape tweets without the use of personal API keys. We gathered tweets from these years since these were the years where cryptocurrency in general were very popular. So moving on, after we scraped the tweets, we actually ended up with, if I remember correctly, about 9 million tweets. I don't remember the specific value, but that's pretty close. It was pretty close to that. And so after scraping the tweets, we then filtered tweets that have specific keywords. Since there are thousands of cryptocurrencies now, we opted to only consider the top 100 DeFi tokens or decentralized finance tokens for the year 2017 to 2021 as part of our analysis. That said, we filtered the tweets that have the DeFi token symbols and the DeFi token names within them. So examples for the DeFi token symbols are Uni for Uniswap, Luna for Terra, AVAX for Avalanche, and yeah, those are some examples just to name a few. So for the data cleaning, after we collected the data, we pre-processed them to remove noise and irrelevant data from the dataset using pre-existing packages and pre-existing features of Vader. Additionally, libraries such as NLTK and TextBlob were incorporated for cleaning the tweets. Moving on, since we will only be considering the top 100 DeFi tokens as part of the analysis, we had to gather historical market caps of the top 100 DeFi tokens. So the data regarding the top 100 DeFi tokens market cap were gathered using the CoinGecko API. However, the API only provided individual market caps for every coin that belongs under the DeFi category, and not the overall market cap for the DeFi tokens. So we actually had to manually compute for the overall market cap and use the output as the final variable for our multivariate series model. Okay, so for the data analysis, with the collected data, a multivariate time series model will be created that makes use of the tweet sentiments, the tweet volume, and the DeFi market cap as the time-dependent variables. The expected outcome would be a functional model that is able to produce a forecast of the cryptocurrency market movements based on a given set of data. So ideally, the data set would have these columns. So we have the tweet volume, the positive number of positive tweets, the number of negative tweets, the DeFi market cap, and the actual date itself. So, all right. So as for the data fitting, to account for the extreme volatility of the values in the dataset that will be used for the training, a standard scaler from Python will be applied to normalize the values. So the model will be generated using an LSTM. So two layers of that specifically were used on top of a sequential model along with the dropout value of 0.2. So the X values used for the training will include the market cap, the total positive tweets, the total number of negative tweets, the volume of tweets, and the market cap. So while the predicted Y value will only be the actual market cap. So for the implementation, so the proposed methodology was actually tested on 100 cryptocurrency tokens that fall under the decentralized finance category. The scraped tweets were filtered using the names of all the tokens that fall under this category as well as their respective symbols. Initially, the data from 2017 until 2021 were included in the dataset. However, due to the parabolic changes in the market cap values of DeFi coins over these years, forecasts that made use of these data were far from accurate. Hence, we opted to only consider data from 2020 onwards. So to discuss the findings and result, including the values from the dates prior to 2020 is determined to be very unreliable because of the aforementioned parabolic change in the market cap values. So the parabolic growth of the tweet volumes and the market cap made the predictions very unrealistic. So to solve this, instead of using 80% of the data for training and research, for the training, we've only considered data from 2020 onwards. So as for the result, doing this basically resulted in a more realistic forecast for the future total market cap of the top 100 DeFi tokens if you're looking at the weekly time frame. However, if we were to compare the values side by side with the actual growth of the DeFi market, it can easily be concluded that the predictions are far from accurate. But if we were to look at the market movement instead, then the model yielded accurate results for the DeFi market cap. Okay, so just to show you some results that we've gathered from the model. So to the left is the prediction generated by the model, and to the right is the actual chart. So the right chart was taken from CoinGecko, and as you can see in the prediction, the orange line basically represent the predicted market cap. So if you look closely for the month of February to March, we can easily conclude that the model indeed forecasted the movement pretty accurately. So moving on, for the verdict, the model has proven to have potential when forecasting market movement for DeFi coins. With further optimization, proper data, and research, this methodology could be a baseline for market movement forecasting for any cryptocurrency in the space. So if we were to re-implement the methodology, the things I would change would be the time frame we used for the model instead of basically using the time frame for a weekly basis. We would consider daily rates and values to produce more accurate results. So to conclude, so cryptocurrency in general is a thriving and proven means of income. Although it's extremely volatile. One cannot deny the amount of lives the space has changed over the past years. The only reason why people shy away from the space is that there are uncertainty, unnecessary fear, uncertainty, and doubt brought about by the ignorance of those who were consumed by social media hype and lost their life savings investing without any proper research. So we believe that with the proper tools, we can further raise the credibility of the space by mitigating the risk for newer investors, which will ultimately redound to the betterment of the economy and having cryptocurrency in general as a valid source of livelihood and a reliable means of investment. That concludes my presentation. Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions for me, please do send them in the chat and I'll try my best to answer all of them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, John Loreen Persino. So as John said, if you have questions about his talk, please feel free to answer, put them in the chat box. And for our speakers earlier, Gian, Carisha, and Anketan, please check if you have questions for you on the chat box and please answer them. So for our last presentation for today, it will be presented supposedly by Kasun Rukmaldeniya from Sri Lanka, but unfortunately, there is a power crisis going on in Sri Lanka. But I think Kasun is with us right now. He is an attendee via his mobile. So if you could say hi, Kasun, if that would be okay, it will be good one. And I hope that on our next APNG camp, you can submit your CFP again and present. So I think that wraps up our Emerging Technologies Day 2 for APNG camp. And thank you to all the speakers. And please feel free to get in touch with them directly if you have further questions. And for our next session, we will have our closed session for the fellows. And it will be on the Zoom meeting exclusive link. So I hope you have enjoyed your day 2. It is our second to the last day. Day 3 will also be more exciting tomorrow. So I hope you can all join tomorrow. And thank you for joining us today. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Sir Ma'am.
Thanks, Anthony.